Hey y'all, welcome to Maverick Gun Works. Today I've got something a little bit different than my usual. I think it is anyways. I'm going to do a comparison of a couple of 1911s. We have for us today a brand new spanking Springfield Armory 1911 in the loaded version. Springfield calls this the loaded model, and we're going to talk about some of the features of this versus some of the older ones. I have, in comparison, a surprise. It's been a good surprise for me actually. One of our customers brought this into the shop for us to do a little renovation on it. And this is the Remington Rand 1911 A1, a genuine government issue Army version of the 1911. So we're going to take a look at both of these guns and give you kind of a comparison of some of the features that Springfield has upgraded on it. And we're going to take a look at both of them, make sure both of them are unloaded here. Pull our slide light back. Okay, so nothing is in the chamber. All right, start with, let's look at what came in the box as far as the Springfield model. You know, we've got your typical owner's manual, a couple magazines here, your lock, and a couple of Allen wrenches. You would not have Allen wrenches with the older version, naturally, because they don't have the same features. With the new ones, we have one Allen wrench to be able to take the guide rod off your recoil spring, because this is a two-piece guide rod versus a single piece guide rod in the older model. Okay, this is actually a gun built more for competition. It's much tighter tolerances than what the military version would have been. And a second Allen wrench is to be able to adjust your trigger, because you have an adjustable trigger here for to make your trigger less over travel. So anyway, let's take a look at that. You see the older model. If the plain trigger here is, go ahead and close it up so we can see what it's doing. Our trigger here is just very minimal, and there's nothing extra on it at all. But I tell you what, I'm gonna pull it back here, and we know it's unloaded. Squeeze it a little bit, and it takes a little more effort to squeeze it than what you might expect from a little polished, more modern version. And with this one, we have an aluminum adjustable trigger that has holes drilled through it to lighten it. Makes it a little sporty looking, right there, I guess you'd say. But it has an adjustment screw in the bottom of it to make some compensation for different people's, guess whatever your feel is, what you prefer as far as the trigger goes. You can have some adjustment there for take up on it, all right, or over travel in this case. Anyway, all right, we've got that trigger, and we can pull our trigger here, and I have a little bit of take up on it. Not bad, but I'll squeeze the trigger there, and it's much smoother, much less movement than what's required for the older model. All right, let's look at the very simple things like the serrations on the slide, for example. All right, on our Springfield, our new model here, we have pretty deep serrations. They're a little bit wider, further apart than the older military version, which still works great, but they're much closer together. And if you look on the front of the slide, on our military version, there is nothing here. It's just slick as it can be. Whereas our Springfield model, our new one, also has serrations on the front of it. So there are folks that would prefer to grab this from the front and be able to rack the slide, right? What else we have here? Our sights. Amazing difference in the sights, all right? On our Springfield model, these are sights that are dovetail cut in, and a Novak low mount cut on the rear, and also the front sight has a dovetail mounted, and these are tritium sights from the factory, glow in the dark. All right, look at our older model here, very different. Okay, we have a very minimal rear sight, very small dovetail cut, but you can replace these with more modern sights. And there are a couple of companies that make a sight to replace that with some dots on it. And other than that, though, if you really want to do anything like we have on a new model, you'd have to do a lot of machining, a lot of milling on the slide to cut a new dovetail in it, to modify it to make make that sight fit better. And on the front sight, very minimal, little bitty slide, little bitty notch up here on the top of our slide. So, and this one actually no dovetail cut, so that is an option if you wanted to. But this one is actually peened in. It has a tenon that goes through the top of the slide and is peened in from the bottom, kind of like similar to a rivet would be. All right. What else we got here? All right, how about our hammer? Okay, so the hammer on the military version. One solid hammer, very minimal. You see how it sticks out. And also our grip safety. Minimal grip safety. Again, the hammer does not go down into the grip safety. Grip safety is sufficient. But if you compare that to our new model, you see you have a much larger hammer, what do you call it, hammer spur back here. And also our grip safety is much more of a curve, more of a large dovetail on it, or beaver tail rather. And also an extra piece on the bottom of it here sticks out that makes it more positive as far as when you grip it. You have an extra material on it so that you'll be able to push it in easier. Okay. The hammer is lighter, so you see it's been hollowed out, machined out here. Okay. Also with our safeties, on our Springfield new model, we have ambidextrous safeties, this being the loader version. You have safety on both sides, manual safety, right there, and there we go. On our original military version, we only have a manual safety, which is designed for right-handed users with your right-hand thumb to be able to operate it. Okay. Very minimal, but it is sufficient. Still does the same job, but on the other side, there's nothing there. Okay. And by the way, this gun still does function great as far as I can tell. With our manual safety in the off position, we're going to test our grip safety. So if I squeeze the trigger, nothing happens. Okay, let's put the safety on, and here we are, cocked and locked. All right, if you're not familiar with that term, that's where it came from. How about that? Now we have a gun cocked, safety is locked, it will not fire. We push our grip safety in, pull the trigger again, nothing happens. So now we take our manual safety off, push our grip safety in, and the trigger releases like it's supposed to. And this gun I know is probably in the neighborhood of 70 years old, maybe even more, because I know the origin of it, where it came from. I've not had opportunity to check any steel numbers yet, but we feel like it's a good 70 years old. But internally, they work almost identical. Okay. And here we have that same thing with our modern 1911. We have an ambidextrous safety on it. We can have a grip on it, squeeze the trigger, nothing happens until we put our safety down and the gun fires. All right. Anyway, I believe with this gun, also I think it has the, double check my stats, I think this is a ceramic coating. It don't appear to be Parkerized to me. Looks like it's a flat black Cerakote, I believe. And we have Cocobolo wood grips that are finely checkered, and it has the Springfield Army logo in the middle of it. Pretty cool. With our older model, these I believe are probably a walnut grip, and this gun has been obviously used right much. You have a lot of the checkering is worn off of it where it's been gripped and rubbed on, but still a very, very cool piece. A lot of history in this gun. Anyway, I tell you what, I'm gonna go ahead and shoot the new one and get a feel for it, see how the trigger performs for me, and sometime we'll go back to the shop, I believe, and probably take a new one apart and compare it a little bit closer to the old one. But I know this is a little more complicated to take apart because you do have a two-piece guide rod and a tighter fitting barrel. Anyway, let's put some ear protection on here. I'm gonna stick a magazine in. I got a few rounds already loaded up, and we'll see how it fires for us. All right, here we go. Going live now. I tell you what, yeah, I love shooting these things. Yep, I like that. Typical Springfield fashion. Pretty good trigger out of the box. Very quick reset. And anyway, good piece. So, hopefully that'll help you out. We'll take this back to the shop and take it down, and come back and check us out in a few minutes. We'll give some more details on it. Alrighty folks, welcome back into the shop. I told you out in the field we would take these guns apart and compare them a little bit, so that's what we're about to do now. We've got our Springfield 1911 loaded version, and to take this down is a little bit different than the older models, so we'll go through that real quick and give you an idea of what you're looking at. Now this, as typical, we're going to make sure that the firearm is not loaded. First thing we're going to do is remove our guide rod. without a wrench, because you can't take the barrel bushing out without taking the guide rod out. And with these, it's not that big a deal to take it apart. Going back together sometimes can be a little bit of a challenge. So take that out right there. Pull our front part of our guide rod out, and now we can take a lot of people may have the barrel bushing tool. Most folks maybe not have that. I'm just going to show you what I typically do is with something brass or plastic. I can push down on the cap for our spring and guide rod, and make sure you hold on this tight because it can get away from you. A lot of spring tension on that rascal right there. Okay, we can pull our recoil spring that was loose, so we can put our slide back. And as typical with any 1911, we're going to line up the takedown pin slot with the notch that is on your slide. Okay, and then once you see the gun in person, it'll be easy to pick out a little bitty small notch milled out into the slide. Line that up with your takedown pin. See the notch right here? Okay, that has to line up with the slot on your slide. With that pin out, now we should be able to pull it. All right, take it out. I guess not. Okay, see, there's a problem. So we'll go back up here and take out. We'll take out the barrel bushing. Go ahead and take the barrel bushing out, and I'll say I will. Okay. Take the spring out of the way. That helps a lot. Okay. There we go. You see there, taking this two-piece guide rod out can be a little bit frustrating sometimes. Go ahead and pull the spring out, and it makes it a little more friendly to take it apart. So now we have our two-piece guide rod. Other than that, it comes apart like any other. The rest of it's just like any other 1911 style firearm. We're going to rotate our barrel bushing the opposite direction so the dick comes out, and now you can pull your barrel out to be able to clean everything. And with that, make sure that your link on your barrel, bottom of the barrel, is down so that it will come out in the front of the slide. And that's how it works with any 1911 style firearm. I won't say any, most of them. I guess there are some maybe some of the newer stuff that's a little bit different. But for the most part, it's going to be just like that. Now we'll take a quick look at the older Remington Rand model here. That's one of the original versions of a 1911 military firearm. And I'm going to double check. Okay, and we have in the chamber. And with this one, we don't have to take apart the guide rod with a wrench. All I got to do is push down a little bit on it right here. Push that down. Make sure you got a good grip on it. Rotate your barrel bushing out of the way, and you have your guide rod, spring, and end cap out. And I can already hear the other end of the guide rod rattling around in there. Line up our slot with the takedown pin notch, and then the gun comes apart, and there's our other end of our guide rod. Actually, that is the guide rod itself right there, rather than having a two-piece rod like we have on the other one. Other than that, we're going to rotate our barrel bushing the opposite direction, same way. Make sure our barrel link is laid down, and we can pick up the barrel here out of the locking latches and slide forward. And from there, we're going to go through our typical cleaning process, where we'll use a little solvent, especially on the face of the bolt here, and down in the slots where the action operates. Same thing with our frame. A little bit of solvent on here where the carbon built up, and we'll come back with a clean dry cloth, clean that off, and then add a couple drops of lube on the sliding surfaces especially. And then you may want to do something with your inside the trigger guard, or trigger group rather. You can see there's a lot of tight tolerances in the trigger group, so it's probably beneficial to put a drop or two of oil down in the slots and let that seep down into your trigger group. Other than that, if you want to take the gun completely apart, that'll be a different video, a different situation. I'm not going to address it right now, but you will take the grips off, and we'll go through at some point how to take the rest of it apart. if you wanted to really thoroughly clean the inside of your 1911. But anyway, let's stick it back together now, give you an idea how that works. Barrel with the link laying down. Okay, we're going to go into our receiver, all the way back into our locking notches. Barrel bushing goes in with that notch lined up with that, with your slots. You rotate the barrel bushing in the opposite direction so you have clearance for the spring to go back into. Guide rod lays down here, and it's only going to fit one way, guys. It's like arched to fit the barrel. So I won't say it's not impossible to put it in wrong, I guess, but it's the craziest thing I've seen sometimes. But for the most part, it's pretty much self-explanatory about how to get it back together there. It's only going to fit one way, really. And with your spring, this one, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to let's take the cap off. With this one, the spring is a little bit snug, so I'm going to put that on first. In this situation, we can put it on from the back side, slide it through. Put it in our slots right there. Okay. Now, to avoid the spring tension, having to put it back together here, let my barrel link hang down, put it back on tracks, give it a little bit of a wiggle to get everything back in alignment. And I'm watching when the barrel link comes through our hole right here, takedown hole. I want to see the barrel link come through there and line it up so that our takedown pin goes back in place of it. Okay. The pin should just drop right in really easy, and it's only going to go so far. Now, you can pull the slide back, line up our takedown notch with the arch on your takedown pin, push it in, and it's good to go. Pull the slide forward. We're going to put our spring cap in, push it down, hold it down, turn it just enough you can get the barrel bushing to capture it. And you can take your finger maybe, or even a plastic tool or brass, so it'll scratch the gun. Push the spring down enough that you can rotate the barrel bushing back in place. Alright, now the gun's ready to go. Let's take a look at our new model, 1911 by Springfield. We'll do the same thing. Our barrel link lays down. Go back into our receiver, slide here rather. Alright. I'm going to put my barrel bushing back in the same way as the old model. Rotate it over so it locks in place. I'm going to use the back side of my guide rod, the back half of it. Go ahead and put my spring on here. And on this one also, the spring on this new one, you see it's wound so that it has a flat end. That should go against your guide rod. The other end that's open, it's just like the wire's been cut off, that should always go inside the cap. Okay. That way you have a lot less opportunity for any birds or whatever to drag or snag on anything. You can cause a problem down the road. That's the way the spring's made. Well, it should go that way. Alright, we'll lay our back end of our guide rod down in here. Okay. Put my barrel link hanging straight down. Just like the other gun. I'm going to put a slide back on the tracks, slide it up here. Okay. Got my barrel link lined up with our takedown hole. Catch it just right here. Okay. Take my brass punch and line it. Get it wiggled up. There we go. Now she's right. I know you can't see this with the camera, but trust me, you can see it if you're in person. All right. There's your takedown pin. Stick it back in the hole. Get everything started there. Okay. Once your takedown pin is started and got the barrel link lined up, pull your slide back so that your takedown notch meets with the high spot arch on your takedown pin. Push it up. Okay. Snap it in place. There we go. And that part's back on. And the whole time, hopefully our recoil spring has stayed on to the back side of our guide rod. And now what we're going to do is capture, we'll take with our cap, our spring cap, we're going to push it down. And again, it's got a lot of tension on it, so make sure you have a good grip to it. And if you are in a closed room, I wouldn't suggest doing this in your living room. You might smack something you don't mean to smack. If it gets away from you, push it down so that it barely catches the edge of the cap. And you can take
Got another tool here, push it down, rotate it a little bit, and it's right back in place. Now here's the can be the aggravating part, the other part of our front side of our guide spring, or guide rod rather, for our recoil spring. And that when you wiggle a little bit, kind of rotate it, wiggle it, and it goes right back down in place. And sometimes they can be aggravating, because I know every now and then you find when it's really frustrating to get back in the hole, because the spring will may wad it up and not be exactly in alignment. But that's all you got to do, a little bit of snug tension on it, and she's put back together now. Okay, there we go. And now since we've done that, I'm going to do let's put a trigger pull test on here with our trusty spring tension gauge, and see what we have on our new versus old trigger. But this is right out of the box, I've not done anything to it. We'll see what Springfield has from the factory. Alright, and we go, little tug here, and that's about 4 3/4 pounds. Pretty doggone good. And actually, as I play with it here and do my feel what I'm feeling of it, it's got very short take up on it. And that's a little bit, there's some things there always you can tweak on these things. But to do that, I would need to make some adjustments on my adjustable trigger here. And also I can take it apart and do a little bit of finagling, tweaking on the trigger components inside. But that's a really good smooth trigger, not rough at all, and very responsive. I like that. And we look at our older version here. Here again, make sure it's unloaded. We'll always be safe with that part of it. Reset my gauge. All right, we'll push our grip safety down. Pull hold of our trigger here. Give it a tug here and see what we have. And this is a obviously well used firearm that has been around a long time, and it's real close to 8 pounds. Okay, so tell you what, I tell you, you've got, what was that, like 4 3/4, just under 5 anyways, and this is 8 pounds. And put manual cocking here and see what it feels like trigger wise with my finger. Short take up on that one, just a little bit of slop there, and I could do something with that to make it better if we wanted to. Pressure, pressure, pressure. Yeah, that's really not a competition style trigger for sure, but it does what it's supposed to do. You know, it's meant for the military, and it was meant to, you know, in the heat of battle, that you have to have a positive feel on the trigger, and you know for sure you're going to fire the gun. So anyway, and it's safe that way. But anyhow, that gives us a little bit of a more inside look, I think, at comparing one of the old models versus new. So and there's a lot of things we can do with the older model. It's quite possible to polish, to modify, to maybe replace some parts and make this trigger feel as good as the new one, if not even better. But it would take some work, and nothing we can't handle. But anyway, I hope that gives you a little bit of insight as to some of the new and old versions of a 1911. And if there's something we can help you with at Maverick Gun Works, give us a call. Thanks for watching.